Hi friends, Flavio here. So at Life Mastery Academy Live, when we talk about health, we primarily talk about three components, three ideas basically, but we expand on them quite a bit and we do exercises to implement those ideas. So it's not just like information, it's not just a conference, it's an actual experience, a workshop where we actually make the changes at the level of the subconscious mind, which is the only level at which a change can actually be made. So the three areas that we address are the areas of energy, having energy to live, to do things, not being tired and sleepy all the time, energy, the area of weight, and the area of rejuvenation. So all of this has to do with the mind and spirit and the soul, and it has to do with the purpose for which we have a physical body. And remember, we're not really a physical body. We're actually a soul, a spiritual entity, having a physical experience through a body. So the body is the vehicle through which this internal part of us, this actual part of us, can be expressed and interact with others here on this earth. And through this body, we can actually live experiences that allow us to learn and evolve and grow. So it's very, very important to take care of the body, particularly as we age, because otherwise the sorts of experiences that become available to us are limited by the limitations of the body. So for instance, if a person cannot walk, they cannot go for a walk, obviously, right? It seems obvious, but then they're limited in that extent. And if they were going to meet a neighbor, let's say, and have a chat with them that would transform their lives, but they cannot walk over there, well, they wouldn't have had that experience because they cannot walk. So that kind of thing. We have to make sure that the body is strong, limber, flexible, and capable of doing what it's designed to do throughout the lifespan. This is really, really important, and actually nowadays it is not only possible but relatively easy to achieve that kind of thing. And there's plenty of information on the internet and through your doctor as to what you can do to improve your health. We address this from a different angle. We address this from a mental and spiritual point of view. So we say that it's important to get more energy, and we ask ourselves, where does that energy come from? Well, it actually comes from the food you eat, of course. It has to be oxidized by oxygen, just like the fuel in your car's engine. So you have the fuel, which is the food, and then you have the oxygen, oxidizes, you have a chemical reaction, creates energy, which means that if we don't oxygenate the body, we're not going to have as much energy, and that happens through appropriate breathing, and few of us actually breathe appropriately, and therefore we're running in a state of constant very mild oxygen deprivation, which acidifies the body and sets up a breeding ground for other kinds of illnesses. That's one issue. The other issue with energy has to do with breathing, but in a different way, because when we breathe, in addition to oxygen and nitrogen and other atmospheric gases, we're actually acquiring from the universe other kinds of energies that are more subtle and cannot quite be measured by modern science yet. They're there, but we can't quite measure. Some people call it prana or by other names. And that kind of energy, it's a universal energy that's all over the place. That's a life energy. Can only, we can get it from the sun too, but in a minor way. Most of it we get through breathing, appropriate breathing. So there are certain breathing exercises that will increase your energy and vitality. And that's really, really important. Now, in our culture, in our society here in the United States, whereas for most of civilization, for most of human history, weight has been a problem in the negative. In other words, most people couldn't get enough food to eat and would starve to death for most of human history. Really, getting enough food was a problem. In our culture, amazingly enough, the problem is reversed. Most of our problems come from overeating or inappropriate eating. And that creates excess weight, and with it, a number of other health problems. So adjusting our weight is a very, very important thing. Particularly as we age and the hormonal distribution begins to change, we remember that, fat cells or adipose tissue, particularly brown fat, is metabolically active. And that particular tissue expresses an enzyme, testosterone aromatase, which converts testosterone into estrogen. So for a man to be overweight, it's not a good idea because we begin to lose testosterone. And with it, a number of male characteristics, including the shape of the body and other problems. But for women, it's not a good thing either, because the excess estrogen is one of the factors implicated in some kinds of cancers, particularly cancers of the female organs. Not all cancers are estrogen dependent, but some are. In fact, when a woman has that sort of cancer, doctors usually give a medication to suppress the production of estrogen to buy them time to use chemotherapy to kill the cancer. So it's important to have those hormonal levels adjusted, and excess weight causes those hormones to be totally out of whack. So that's the weight part of it. And the third part of it has to do with rejuvenation. And the question is, how come we age? And let me ask you a better question. That's not quite the question I wanted to ask. The question is there really anything that we can do about aging? I don't know about reversing aging. I've never seen this. But I have seen that we don't all age at the same rate. And I can tell you that many, many studies have been done on this. You pick up 100 people who are, let's say, 5 years old at a schoolyard, and you follow them through a lifetime, and you realize that by the time they're 70, so you take those 100 kids from the schoolyard, and you examine their health, and people have done these kinds of exercises, and you realize that their health is very homogeneous. In other words, they all look about the same, they're very equally healthy. I mean, few kids have an actual problem, those are special cases, but for the most part, the kids are healthy. They run around, they play, they fall, they don't break any bones, right? So you take the same 100 people who are 5 years old and who are of a very homogeneous level of health, and you bring them you wait until they're 70 years of age, and what you find is astounding. You find that many of them are not even alive anymore. I don't have the exact numbers here, but many are not alive anymore. Some are very ill, some are in bed, some are very barely hanging on to their lives, some are okay, some are good enough, and some are very healthy. And the question is, how come? What happened there? We don't all age the same. And blaming it on genes doesn't work anymore. Today we know that what counts isn't so much the genes you're born with, but what genes are expressed or repressed. And epigenetics, the science of epigenetics, tells us that the mind has a lot to do with gene expression and repression, and the mind also interferes with the energy distribution through the body and through our behaviors and choices in life. So the answer is, we can most definitely slow down aging or contain some of the effects of aging. In other words, we can have a healthier lifestyle as the years wear on if we adopt certain mental changes right now. And those are the kind of things that we get deep into at Life Master Academy live. It's a life experience right there with me, looking into your eyes, and we actually go through this transformation together. So I'm looking forward to seeing you at the next meeting. Leave me a note below, and I'll let you know when the next one is up. So there's one thing I want to tell you, and that is that there is magic in life. And we are just getting started with this. Have fun.